Okay, item number 16, decision on proposal for fire services staffing study. Carolyn McCreary.
Thank you. At your October 28th meeting, the board, Chief Wegman spoke to you about the future fire services in Montgomery Township. And in 2025, the board discussed this at public meetings on June 23rd, July 28th, August 25th, and recently on September 8th. At your August 25th meeting, you discussed the merits of having a third-party independent consultant evaluate the plan brought forth by Chief Wegman and review other options. It was also suggested that a comprehensive study of all fire operations be conducted. Consensus of the majority at that time was to obtain quotes. The firms that were contacted were the Center for Public Safety Management, Municipal Resources, and Aspirant Consulting Group. Since the board has resumed holding 2 meetings a month as of September, you reviewed this at your last meeting. You looked at the quotes, and then the board consensus and the board vote was to table it until tonight to decide whether you wanted to move forward with the study. In the meantime, we have moved forward during the normal budget process, actually kind of working on a couple of budget scenarios for fire because we just didn't know where things would ultimately land with that. But tonight, all I'm looking for is a decision about the study. And you have the option, obviously, of doing just the staffing portion right now. You also have the option of, and I've said this to a couple of you, if the board, if it's their pleasure to have a study, a more significant study done of all fire operations, just because of the time we're running into with budget season, it'd be my recommendation that you do that in January. You authorize that for 2026. And then come next fall, we'd be in a position to talk about things at length, not just staffing, but fire services in general. There are a couple of things that we just don't know about. We don't know, obviously, about the health and of the volunteer organizations around us. So we do have mutual aid with the municipalities around us, but I don't know personally where they're at in terms of getting trucks out. I hear anecdotally that trucks get scratched or trucks get recalled. So I can only speak to what I know about our volunteer firefighters and our career staff. And so tonight, I'm just looking for some guidance and some hopefully decision on whether you want to move forward with the study, in which case I would contact the vendor of your choice. And then if not, we would just continue moving forward with the budget as we had talked about for 2026.
Okay, so figured we'd maybe do it a little differently than we did last 2 weeks ago and open it up to public comment first. Versus I think we all kind of went through and then, so everyone, anyone who would like to share their thoughts. And again, tonight we are specifically just looking at whether or not to do some sort of study on the topic. We are not voting on the budget. We have not approved anything yet. So please understand that. Number one. Number two, I want everyone to have an opportunity to speak. And I'm not really into that 2-minute, 3-minute thing, but of course, within reason. So I just say that too. And we'll just open it up. So if you could just state your name, your address, and then whatever you'd like to share.
Excuse me, I'm just asking if you come forward to please state your name slowly and your address slowly so that I can capture it for the record. Thank you.
My name is Warren Sabia, Sabia. I live at 111 Pinecrest Lane in Montgomery Township. That's at the golf course. I've been hearing people talk about the fire department changes. And what I've heard is that they're that Montgomery Township is considering going to all paid full-time firefighters instead of the current version of volunteers and full-time paid firefighters. I've also heard that if you want to you're thinking about doing it in 1 year, and that if you did it in 1 year, the taxes for the fire department would increase 38%. We already heard how bad the economy is going, and how people need food, and 100,000 people are having trouble eating. I've heard that you have considering a consultant to look at this. This is an ungodly complicated thing to do. I recommend that you do this, that you get a consultant and look at this. I don't see how the supervisors and the people who run this township can do that at the same time as doing their normal job. So I recommend that you do that. I also think it's politically explosive. We just had the North Penn School District get turned down for the changes that they wanted because they wanted to go too quickly, too radically for what the public could understand. And if there's a problem with this and you didn't get a consultant, where are you going to look in the public? Now, you really need to do this, I think. And I encourage you to do this. I'm glad you had the wisdom to save some money for doing this. And I encourage you to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Gormley, 119 Country Club Drive. I am also the chairman of the Township Public Safety Committee. I thank my fellow committee members who are here tonight. We have been discussing with the chief over the last, I don't know, year plus, the background on this initiative, on where we've come from, on where it has come to. We've had a lot of conversations about it at the last meeting. We did get our heads together and speak about it some more. We put this to a vote. And from the Public Safety Committee, which is made up of volunteers from this township, we recommend moving forward with Chief Wegman's plan as presented. Thank you.
What's the plan? What's the plan? Everything that was already presented online.
Hi, I'm Winter Morris, 111 Pinecrest. And it is obviously a very, very large project with huge impacts financially for the community. And I would highly recommend that a very comprehensive report be made using the appropriate consultants to flush out all of the considerations going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can someone explain the plan? Because I don't know.
So again, there is a plan. It was presented. It has been. I would direct you to, because tonight, to the website. You could go back to all of our meetings. I highly recommend the very first one that Chief presented to all of us, which dates back to June, was when we first heard, the five of us, the plan of what he would like to do within the township.
Which is hiring 19 people.
So, but there's so much information around it. So he would like to go to a full-time across the board, full-time firefighters. But I encourage you, that's where, again, tonight, the conversation is around, do we do a consulting for staffing? So I highly recommend, and if you haven't, and I've kind of put Chief on the spot here, if for whatever reason getting online is not easy, or something that you're not able to look at our meetings dating back on YouTube, I'm sure Chief will answer any questions that you may have offline. Okay. Again, tonight is around the consulting firm and bringing them in.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Backlund. I am the career captain here in Montgomery Township. I'm also the president of the Professional Firefighters Union here in Montgomery Township. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight in support of Chief Wegman's proposal to enhance fire coverage throughout our community. We're not here to debate the need for the study. We feel that the study has already been completed by Chief Wegman. I'm also not here to debate the necessity of expanding career staffing within the township. Chief Wegman has presented compelling data and professional analysis that clearly demonstrates the need for additional support for our volunteer personnel. We're not asking to get rid of volunteers. We're asking to strengthen our combination department with additional career staffing that supports our volunteers. Numerous leaders of the FDMT have echoed these findings. Many of them are here tonight, including our battalion chief, our deputy chief, our assistant chief, and another volunteer captain. And with the consensus established, the question before you is not if we should expand, but really how we should proceed. All career staff stand in full support of Chief Wegman's recommendations to implement the 2472 schedule model. We're here this evening not only to advocate for its benefits to our personnel, but to emphasize how this model best serves the township and its taxpayers. I'd like to begin with the financial implications. Obviously, that's a critical concern for everybody. We all pay taxes here. Some of us pay more just because of the school tax, but that is what it is. It has been suggested at other meetings that the 2448 schedule may offer a cost savings to the township. This is a misconception. Chief Wegman has outlined the true financial impacts. A lot of it you can find online through the township website, including the substantial overtime costs associated with the 2448 model. In fact, adopting that schedule would result in approximately $308,635 in additional annual salary expenses due to the requirement for each firefighter who works for you for the township would be asked to work upwards of 840 more hours per year, 840 hours a year extra. This translates to an average of 32 to 40 extra hours of pay period. That's another full-time job for the firefighters in hours. It's an additional 24-hour shifts on top of the 2472 schedule, or an additional 105 standard 8-hour work days. So those of you that work 8 hours a day, you'd have to work another 105 hours on top of your work schedule throughout the year to take on that schedule. In comparison, the 2472 schedule results in only 110 hours over a standard work year, less than 5 additional 24-hour shifts, or 12 and a half additional 8-hour work days. Once spread out over the year, which we would have to do regardless, it equates to about 42-hour work week instead of a 56 and higher work week. So 84 hours of pay period. This is much more manageable for the workers. And beyond the financial, we must consider the human impact of those extra hours. Rest and recovery. 2 days off following a 24-hour shift often does not allow for adequate recovery due to several factors, including mandatory holdovers if an employee calls out sick, or being called in early if we do have a structure fire and additional personnel need to come in. The 2472 schedule provides sufficient rest, resulting in more alert and effective firefighters. Firefighting is one of the most physical, demanding, and hazardous professions, especially here in America. Sleep deprivation and fatigue compound these risks. Emergencies occur around the clock. We cannot predict when these emergencies happen. They can happen 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 5 o'clock in the afternoon. According to several studies published by the MDPI, which is an international research-based health journal, they're out of Europe. Research shows that chronic lack of recovery time increases the risk of heart disease, cancer, PTSD, and other long-term health issues. Health and wellness. The 2472 schedule significantly reduces fatigue and stress, promoting better physical and mental health. This leads to fewer injuries, reduced sick leave, and lower long-term medical costs for the township. As we know, when an employee gets hurt in the township, it's very expensive for that employee, also very expensive for the township itself. Occupation exposures. Working an additional 842 hours a year annually means increased exposures to carcinogens and traumatic incidents. We are not people that sit behind desks and go on computers all day. We are exposed to trauma and cancer-causing agents every time we get into the fire truck. These exposures pose serious risks to both physical and mental well-beings of all employees here. Family and work-life balance. Extended off-duty periods allow firefighters to spend meaningful time with their families, improve morale, and job performance. Many of our members are newly married or raising young children. A schedule demanding 840 more hours than the average worker places undue strain on our personnel. The 2448 schedule means not being able to coach our kids' sports teams, not being able to volunteer in other places. Most of us, if not all of us, are volunteer firefighters in other townships. And we'd be missing out on more family functions. While we understand that shift work means missing important life events, we understand that, we get that, such as birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. The 24/72 model allows us to be present for more of those opportunities with our families. Public safety. Fatigue directly affects performance. Well-rested firefighters, same as police, are better equipped to respond swiftly, make sound decisions, and deliver safe, reliable service to the community. That's why we're here, to deliver a good product to the community. And recruiting and retention. We know we have to hire firefighters. It's going to happen. But over the past 6 years, Chief Wegman has worked extremely hard to build a culture that is forward-thinking, collaborative, and follows national best practices. All of the reasons why people come and want to come to Montgomery Township and why the current employees want to stay. We enjoy working here. The township is very supportive of us, and we enjoy working for Chief Wegman. As the department expands, moving to a 24/72-hour model will align with national best practices and enhance our hiring pool. Applicants who might be discouraged by the 24/48 schedule will be willing to apply if we see healthier, more modern schedules that prioritize wellness for the employees. We heard earlier that even township CPAs don't want to work in the job because of work-life balance. Finally, it's important to note that departments nationwide are transitioning from the 24/48 schedule to the 24/72 model for these exact same reasons. Recently, Florida, just in August, passed House Bill 929, which is encouraging departments to switch to the 24/72 schedule or the 42-hour work week. South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, Plano, Texas just voted to switch from 24 to 48 schedule to 24/72. The list goes on of departments and states across the country moving to the 24/72 model. Locally, departments all over Pennsylvania are working on this schedule. Just right around here, some of the departments include Upper Marion, Spring Township, and Northampton Township, to name a few. I understand many of the members of the board have gone out and spoken with other municipalities to see how they run their operations, and I applaud you for doing so. I think it's great to get a full picture of what's going on. But I also know that what other departments do may or may not be best practices for here in Montgomery Township. This is an opportunity for the leadership of the township to learn from the challenges faced by other townships, to find a system that will work here in Montgomery Township. This is your opportunity to follow research-based practices by national organizations like the NFPA and state organizations like the Pennsylvania Career Chiefs Associations, who has vetted out Chief Wegman's plan, and apply them here for the benefit of the community and of the workers of the township. I'd like to conclude by saying that the 24/72 schedule is not about working less. In fact, we'd be working more than we are now. It is about working smarter. It enhances our health, strengthens our families, and improves our ability to serve Montgomery Township with excellence and integrity, what every township resident expects. I respectfully urge the board to consider not only the financial data that's been provided, but the profound human impact behind these numbers. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carla Helizak, HelasZK. I'm at 141 Addison Lane in Lansdowne. So for the record, I don't know anyone who is opposed to improving the public safety of our citizens. What the pushback is the methodology that is being used, meaning how fast the hiring and how big of a tax increase is going to hit us all at once. So as it relates to hiring a consulting firm, I see that as a venue for you to justify moving as fast as you can. And I would strongly urge the board to recognize that there are many families, many of them seniors, who are struggling to stay in the township right now. And after living here for 20 or 30 years, they shouldn't have to be forced with the decision to move out. What I would like to see, if you would be willing to, is to put the RFP out online for public comment, because I need to make sure that it's got the right questions in there and that it's not skewed in any way to give you the answer that you want. I would very much also like to see in any plan to improve the fire safety, whether it's more people or engines. I would like to see what metrics are in place to see that we really have to go from 5 to 24. Why isn't it 5 to 8 and 8 to 12 and 12 to 15 over a 5-year period of time to reduce the tax burden? Finally, I know that you mentioned it in your talk a little earlier, but I also have a concern about the volunteer firefighters from our neighboring communities applying for the positions here, and then we're putting our neighboring communities at risk. So it's not something that can be rushed. I would strongly encourage the board to take careful consideration of the speed at which this seems to be wanting to go versus the huge tax increase that you're expecting residents to have to pay for that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, doing? Steve Kasich, 302 Walden Lane. It's Kasitz. I've been a resident for over 20 years here, and I've always kind of trusted the board to do the right thing. And then I saw the plan, I read it. The township has an amazing ability to put stuff online for us to get educated. Once again, it just shows how great this township is. The reason I came here tonight, left my cozy little couch to come out here for the first time in 20 years, was because I feel like we're kicking the can down the road again. I read the plan. I saw the math. I understand what it is. I, of course, don't want to pay more taxes, but I don't want to spend time watching my house burn waiting for a fire truck to get there. I don't see the need to spend more money to keep looking at a problem that I think Chief Wegman has found the answer to. So in my humble opinion, in my vote, I would say, let's not do the survey. Let's act with speed. Because one of the issues that someone just brought up is that we're doing this too fast. Every day response times get longer. Every day there's less and less volunteers out there doing this job. So we're going to waste more time before we fix the problem? I don't think so. I saw the plan. I think it's a good one from my uneducated opinion. So my thought and hope is we bypass this survey and just get right to the job of tackling the problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm John O'Connor from 111 Newport Lane. I also serve on the Public Safety Committee with Dan and have done so for over 10 years. Came out tonight, I'll keep to the issue at hand, which is the study. And, my support is to move forward with Chief Wegman's plan without the study. I think the gentleman that just said, I kicked the can down the road was something I had in my mind that I was going to say when I came up here. And there seems to be this perception that this was a haphazard or quickly thrown together plan. And I can tell you, having served in the committee, this is something that Chief Wegman has been working on and that we've talked about in committee for nearly a year now. And we can bring a consultant in, but in my opinion, I don't know that everybody has taken the time to really educate themselves on the education, the professionalism, and the experience of Chief Wegman. We pay for our own consultant here. We don't need to pay for a third party. We're blessed to have a very competent board, very competent township manager. And in my opinion, we don't need a third party to tell us what's best for this township. Chief Wegman is best to tell us what's for this township. And that's what I wanted to voice tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Jared Utz, 81 Forest Trail Drive. I did see the plan online, but as important, I watched the entire podcast between Miss McCreary and Chief Wegman. And a couple things were apparent to me, and I'm going to just stick to the topic at hand tonight, but I just wanted to share a quick anecdote because I did hear about concerns for our seniors. After I watched the podcast, I was at a graduation party at a neighbor's house. And around 11 o'clock at night, about 11:30 at night, I received a call from my son. And my son has a pretty severe peanut allergy. And he was going into shock. He was at a party at Pinecrest, and unbeknownst to him, he ingested peanuts. So 11:30 at night on a Saturday, I received a call from him in response to what was going on. And the first thing that came to mind was that podcast. We know that on weekends, when it comes to fire, who's, by the way, part of our first responders for not just fire, for other medical emergencies, those response times are down because of our volunteers. So I had to make the decision on what to do, and I ended up taking it under my own hands. And I got home into Lansdale Hospital in about 7 minutes. And I just thought to myself, we have a great community. We have a great board. We really do. We have great first responders, fire, police, public works. But if there is an opportunity, not just for kids like my son, but for seniors, for anybody that we can help on the weekends, right? Where we heard on the podcast that response times can go down for fire. I think we really need to consider that. I thought the data was laid out really well, and I agreed with the speaker a couple folks ago. The data's there. We have our feasibility. But I also understand public responsibility. So I would say if there is a need to challenge the work that's already been laid out by Chief, which to me was pretty well detailed, and it's a fellow that's has enough experience to put together a solid plan. But if that need is there to challenge it, consider the engagement of that feasibility party on Chief Wegman's signature and nobody else's, because wouldn't he be the one to truly understand who would be writing that report? And by the way, I don't think we need it. I think the data's there. I think it's the right thing to do. But again, I also understand the concerns of the board. So I would say, if we go that direction, it should be on his engagement and his engagement alone. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This after him. My name is Scott Urbanati. I live at 106 Grays Lane. Just a question. What will the survey provide that we don't know now?
So I think that's the question, number one. Number two, another set of, so I think the biggest piece of it, at least the takeaway that I've gotten from, hearing folks, the community, as well as my fellow board members, that it's another set of eyes to look at what possibly, Chief is requesting for us to look at and approve. So the meeting before this one 2 weeks ago, the three consulting firms that were considering, they actually gave kind of an outline of what the services that they would provide. So when I looked at it, that's one of the questions I'm asking myself too. What more is it asking or going to show us that we don't already know?
I have a
but I
summary.
think,
I'm sorry. Do you want me to read the summary?
The
Or would you
summary
like
of, no, go ahead.
The type,
No.
what's covered in the scope.
Please, go ahead. Just to give you an idea of the three firms that are being
This is
considered.
just one of them.
Oh, okay.
Baseline assessment and service model options includes review of all call data, staffing models, mutual aid, regionalization, volunteer feasibility, cost comparisons, and service model alternatives. I'm trying to see if there's any difference between what they're doing is challenging all of the assumptions to either ensure that what the chief has presented is sound or suggest alternatives.
Okay, thank you for all that. If the plan that Chief Wegman has already worked up follows national regulations and national guidelines, what would those other companies, whoever else is looking at this, what would they provide that would be different than what's like national? Like if that's the benchmark and that's what the plan has proposed, it seems like what would they offer that's different?
So on occasion, consulting companies, their job is to come in and, quote unquote, give a fresh eye look to things and then possibly present alternative ways of doing what it is you without a doubt, and someone said it already, we know something has to be done. It has already been established. We have an issue. We have an issue here in our township. So the firms may come in and show us something that possibly Chief didn't see, or look at it differently than Chief. And I'm just, talking about having dealt with many consulting companies, not on this topic, but that's usually what they come in and do. They come in, they meet with all of your team, your folks, they get all of the information because that's what they have to do. They don't know it, we have to give it to them. And then their job is to come back, take that data, play around with it, and then present it to us in possibly a different way, or it could very well be exactly what Chief has laid out for us.
Okay.
That's their job.
Okay. And those surveys obviously would cost our taxpayers money, right? And one of the issues, or the biggest issue, is the financial implications of the proposed plan. But by doing this survey, it seems like, since all that information is already obtained, it seems like, if cost is the issue, why would we pay for another survey to provide the same information? That's all.
Well, I can maybe answer that. My husband's a consultant, not for fire, but they oftentimes will give an alternative that may actually save that and more. And sometimes it's a time savings. It will make for efficiencies. These same changes that we're proposing here have been implemented in many other communities. So can we take their learnings, their mistakes maybe, and learn from them rather than making them ourselves? That's just one example. So there can be money savings. So that this is not just an expenditure. It's hopefully something that will save us time, money, frustration, and hopefully a better fire service for our community and for our firefighters. That's what the hope is.
Right. I think that's the ultimate goal here, which is the goal of the proposed plan. It just seems like the issue at hand is the survey. Again, not to reiterate, just another kicking the can down the road thing. I mean, I feel like we do a lot of that without any action. So that's one of my questions. I appreciate the answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shapna Mukherjee. I'll spell it. It's SWAPNA. Last name is Mukherjee, MUKHERJEE. I live at 105 Potters Way in North Wales, and I've lived there for 26 years. I applaud all the firefighters, all the police that make this community safe. I've had a 36 year career in IT. Feasibility studies is what we do all the time. Nothing against the fire chief or the police chief. It is just another way of looking at things that Beth just said, that we need a consultant. I'm in favor of a consultant looking at the whole thing, because my entire career has been looking at feasibility studies. They are not to point out errors or anything that's being done incorrectly. It's just a way of saying, are there holes in something, or is everything kosher and everything is okay? My vote as a resident who's lived here for 26 years is to do a feasibility study. No one wants to pay higher taxes, but it is going to be a way for us to look at something that may or may not have been looked at by the fire chief or the police chief. That's my input.
Thank you.
My name's John Almeida, Almeida, at 1705 North Line Street. And I think this is a classic your money or your life question. And I understand, I grew up in the city, although I have spent half my time here. And we have, in the city, obviously, we have professional firefighters. Everybody is paid by the city, probably while their taxes are a little higher. And I understand, I knew people who were part of the neighboring Calmer, Worcester, and a few of the other fire companies, all volunteers at the time when I first moved up here. And they did a great job, but that was the old days back when they had beepers and the sirens. This is a much more complex environment we live in now. It's a lot more built up than it was when I moved here 35 years ago. There's a lot more going on. I mean, we need we're going to eventually need professional fire protection. It just happens. And as you get built up, you're going to need full time because the volunteers, friends of mine, their fathers were in the volunteer fire company. So they became, but then they went to college and then they moved away and their kids are somewhere else. So, I mean, it used to be volunteer fireman was like, it was a mantle. It was handed down from father to son, often from grandfather to father to son. We don't have that environment anymore. We're going to need, eventually, we're going to need professional. The question is, though, is how fast and how much. And the many questions people seem to have. I mean, the plans have been up there for many, many months. And people are still asking where the plans are. I mean, they're there. To quote a very confused man once, there are known unknowns and unknown unknowns. I think there's a lot of unknown unknowns right now. One of the problems the board has is they're going to actually, I mean, the plan may be good. Actually, I've looked at the numbers and a 2472 format is actually better for the firefighters. It's better for us too, because we don't want a tired firefighter or someone who's not capable of responding because they're overworked or they're having trouble at home. And everybody, if you do the math on it, 24 on 48, that means you work one day and off two. I only worked when I worked, I was an analyst. I worked 20 days, 21 days a month, 8 hours days. That's 168 hours. If you're on 3 days, if you're on one and off two, that means you're working basically 10, 24-hour days a month, which is 240 hours. That's an awful lot. And people, I've heard people unfortunately say things like, well, they're sitting around most of the time. The best definition I've heard of war is hours of pure boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. And that's what firefighting is. Firefighting is the bell goes off and you go. So that's the kind of people we need, and we need them fresh, and we need them ready to help us. But the problem is, I think there are more unknowns right now, and the board has to actually sell this to people. Because people, as you've heard, people don't know what's going on. I mean, I read the emails I get, and I got to tell you, I'm not as plugged in as I should have been to this it's been going on for over a year. And a couple electronic billboards aren't going to really enlighten people overnight. People are going to need to know, I mean, almost a simple fact sheet sent out to people saying, this is what we propose. This is how much it's going to cost. And I mean, me personally, I've done the math and it doesn't seem like a lot to me, but that's my position. There are other people who actually aren't going to have that kind of money. I mean, you're talking about 38 to 40% increase. But that's people also, when you say that to people, they think on their taxes. We pay more in school taxes than anything else. When you say their taxes, they're thinking about the big bill. That I did the math on mine. It's probably about $120, $160, somewhere around there a year. For other people, it's going to be less, more. But the thing is, people don't understand. And if people don't understand, they panic. And they panic and they dig a hole and they just can't get out of it. So I think the board would probably be best served going through this audit, because as an analyst, I would go through a program and I would be stonewalled by it for hours. But you bring in a second set of eyes and they come and look, a fresh set. Person who didn't write this program, and they'll pick it out in maybe 5 minutes. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's not. There may not be any flaws in this plan. And actually, I think the general direction of the plan is correct. But the problem is there are too many unknowns right now. I mean, maybe not to the people who wrote the plan, but the people who are going to benefit from the plan. And I think right now, if you go ahead with this, I mean, I don't know. And people say, I'm going to vote this way, I'm going to vote that way. How are they going to vote? This is going to be done before the next election, or after, I don't know, sometime this year. I'm not sure if we have anything to do with this at all right now. I mean, the public safety.
Yep, I'm sorry. Say that to me again, what you're just, because we're not, again, we haven't voted on the budget. So
What's
this
what I
is-
mean? I well, people don't see. I don't know. I don't know. See, that just proves my point. I'm not quite sure what the timeline is, whether this is going to be done this year. I mean, some people are saying, don't rush this. Eventually, it's probably going to happen. But for now, I mean, there's, like I said, it's a selling job. People have to, you have to explain to people why this is such a good idea. And I think it is a good idea. But you're going to have to educate them, unfortunately. And, you know, it's like they say, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So, I mean, right now, most people seem to be ignorant of what's going on. And they think it's like, you know, death from above just came to these people. I think it needs to be explained to them calmly, clearly, and logically. And we'll see what happens from that.
So I do think it's just worth mentioning. I mean, from the time that this was mentioned to us again in June, I'm actually going to go back to October, was the first time that Chief just brought to the board that, you know, this was something he was going to look at including for next year, in this year now, to for 2026 year, on that we have a real issue going on, and we need to talk about it, address it, and figure out a plan. Based on what Chief has shared with all of us, that it's something he's been working on for a while, got presented to us for the first time in June. And then we really saw that, unless someone else knew this, I know it was an eye opener for me as a resident, as a taxpayer here too, that we have an issue. And if you go back to that meeting, one of the comments I made is, we've been lucky, because, you know, that this hasn't really turned into some sort of catastrophic situation in our township, in my opinion. That was, you know, one of the comments that I made. Since then, Chief has made himself extremely available to the, you know, is the best that one person can do. I requested for him to come to my community. I live in a 55 and over, because there was that conversation that this may really be a hardship for our seniors. So I live in a 55 and over. He came and did a presentation to the folks that everybody was invited to that community. I asked if he would do the same for Neshaminy Falls. We put it out for Neshaminy Falls. He did a presentation in Neshaminy Falls specific to that community. We had a presentation here at the township that has been recorded, so you can actually look at that one, and anyone was welcome to that. One of the things that, a little bit to your point, one of the things that was suggested by a resident, and I've just been thinking about this constantly since it's come up or been brought before us. Someone has suggested that maybe we kind of take this old school and do a mailing also, because we do still have, many people have said it, but my last conversation, which was this past week on Wednesday with my seniors, I'm the liaison for the senior committee. And I was sitting there after our meeting with one of our seniors, and he said to me, now he's online, but he said, we still do have that generation of folk that are not. So they may not know what's going on. They may not know what's going on. So I think Carolyn, maybe this week I might have reached out, or maybe it was that I said, maybe we need to look at doing a meeting. I'm sorry, doing a mailing, and then have a date for another meeting. So on the mailing, say, come out to this meeting to hear more about the proposed fire expansion.
I mean, just as a question, from this meeting and previous meetings and all those other meetings, how many people do you think you've actually addressed this to?
So, I mean, it's actually, and Carolyn might be able to
I think-
answer that better.
So start with the mailing. So I don't know how many people get like a glossy postcard in the mail. You get it for like window replacements or gutter, and I get them and I toss them in my recycling bin.
Yeah.
So I thought if I send a postcard out and I put a firefighter on there fighting a house fire, maybe that would draw someone's attention. They would turn it over and say, you can look at our website or you can come to this meeting. When we've done mailings, that's obviously more labor intensive. And again, you get a piece of mail that says Montgomery Township with a meter, and it doesn't have your name. It just says resident or occupant. Again, like we send out a lot of things and people will say, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
We just had the Wall That Heals in July, and a number of people came from a lot of other areas, and yet we had our own residents saying they didn't know about it. So we're always balancing. We had a town hall here. The chief and I did a town hall. 3 of the supervisors were here as well. The meeting room wasn't filled. We sent an email out to every HOA in the township offering to go and talk to them at, we typically we get invited to their annual meetings to sort of just give an update. We said, we'll have a special meeting. Just tell us where and when, and we will come. And we had 2 reach out, one being Miss Ware Jones community, and the other being the Chamonix Falls. We went over what the taxes would look like, because everybody's concerned about senior citizens. The Chamonix Falls, their bill was going up $3 to $6 a month. They didn't know that until we came and talked to them. The biggest push we've had this time, I would say successful, was the podcast that the chief and I did. At one point in July, it had already had 600 and some views. And then the meetings that we've snipped out. So instead of having to sit there and watch a whole board of supervisors meeting, we snipped out the discussions on specifically on fire and posted them. And they've had over 1,000 views on, the last time I checked. I also know people are now following FDMT's Facebook page because of the discussion about fire. So they went from, I forget how many, but it's insane now, the number of people who are following them. I've had chiefs reach out from other fire companies across the country because they're seeing what we're doing, because we're posting it on LinkedIn as well. So the word's getting out there. There's always going to be people who don't know. We just don't know what the perfect way is to get the message out. You get the e-news, you said. We used to do a brochure, about the township, and we'd send out, newsletters, on like glossy paper, on newspaper kind of paper, and still we would have people come in and say, I didn't know anything about that. So it's constantly, resident engagement is something we struggle with every single day, talking about what's the best way to reach out to people. We're trying our best, but
yeah, that's like I said, education is going to be hard for you guys.
Yeah,
because
John,
people, I mean,
Can I jump in? Because I wanted to circle back to you had a question about timing. And actually the board just received tonight the timetable for budget discussion. So just to clarify for you, on 10/20, they're going to distribute the proposed budget to us, our board. On Friday, the 24th, we're going to have a budget workshop, and it's an all-day workshop to review all the proposals for 2026 from all of the departments. On Monday, November 10th, that's when the presentation of the proposed 2026 budget and authorization to advertise will take place. Wednesday, the 11th, the 2026 proposed budget will be advertised as being available for public inspection and posted to the township website. And then in December is when we will finally vote to adopt the 2026 budget.
so we're talking about 3-month time frame. So that's, I mean, honestly, for a lot of people, getting involved in this, showing up for these things, reading their mail, it's hard. I mean, like I said, you have a tough selling job to do, because this is the kind of thing that people are going to look at their taxes. Why do my taxes go up? They're totally out of the blue, and they're not going to understand why. I mean,
the reality is, and Carolyn made reference to it, there's going to be someone that's not going to hear about it. But to your point, we have to try to reach
we have what,
everyone.
25,000 residents?
26.
Or 26,000, and you probably talk to maybe 1,000 of them.
I
or
think it's
maybe
more than
more.
that, but
So
yeah.
if I can interrupt for 1 second, I do have the numbers for the Facebook followers for the fire department in June of 2025. So this year, June, 7,100 followers of that page. As of September, 82,000. 82,000 plus.
82,000.
Yeah,
8,200.
that's
Oh,
Which is more than we
82,000. Of
have.
course. Oh,
Which is
over.
more than we have here,
Here in
correct.
the
So
township.
these
But-
are
well, they
different
have-
people
they have-
following.
They have,
So-
they have a number called penetration.
Well, I think
But it raises
So a lot
awareness.
of these people probably are just surface. I mean, they're
I think
they're obviously
other
not-
fire departments are probably watching, and firefighters and communities.
Because like you said, this is the first. We would be the first professional fire department in this area. Is that correct? All the rest of them volunteer. around us?
No.
Norristown.
I think Norristown is
Or
currently
well,
Are you talking about
mutual aid?
in our
In our mutual aid area.
in Norristown.
in North Penn.
yes.
You're talking about?
In North Penn area, mutual aid. Basically, you're on the bleeding edge, as we say. It's the kind of thing. It's like imagine buying a car and deciding tomorrow you're going to buy a car. I'm like, no, you're going to do a little investigative. Unfortunately, you can do a lot. Because you're going to buy the car for yourself, but you're buying the car for 26,000 people. And the problem is you got to run through. You're not going to make everybody happy. No one ever is going to make everybody happy.
As much as we want to.
we know.
Right.
As
So-
much as we want to.
But the thing is, you're going to eventually this will make everybody healthy because people will live. It's like I said, it's money, your money or your life. To me, the money isn't consequential enough as I'd say no personally. And I actually agree with the 24/72 schedule because it makes sense for them too. But for other people, like I said, people who don't know what's going to happen, they don't know why it's happening. I think maybe a second set of eyes or a third set of eyes is probably wise at this time. And maybe a phasing in of it. I don't know how they could do that. Once again, these are the unknown unknowns. I don't know. There are known unknowns. I don't even know the unknown unknowns. So there are things that I don't understand, that I don't know about.
Did you have an opportunity to listen to the podcast or look at, because I do feel as if our chief has answered some of the questions, but I think what I'm hearing from you though is that a third party.
I agree with most of the points. Like I said, I came from an area that had professional firefighters. So you called 911 in Philadelphia and there was someone, boom, they were there because they were sitting in a firehouse, maybe a couple, 2, 3, 4 miles from my house, and they would show up. So that's the kind of thing I actually came to expect out here when they had. You remember the sirens, right? People was like, "What are those?" I was like, "What are those sirens?" Because I was thinking, and when I first heard one, I thought it was Limerick.
Yeah,
I thought I was going to have to duck and cover because no, that's our volunteer firemen. The ones that don't have beepers are listening because that's also they're in the area. They happen to be nearby. It's like, but volunteer is. It only goes so far. And frankly, once other people read this, maybe they'll come to the same conclusion I have. The problem is, like I said, the second half of it is, yes, we like our lives. It's the money part. You have to make the money part make sense for people because a lot of people are going to say, I don't want to have to pay. No, I used to work in insurance.
John?
Yeah,
I'm
we might
sorry.
want to.
Sorry, what?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but there's a lot of other people that have public comments to
Okay.
make. Can you just tell us your
Yeah,
yes
I
for
was
the
just gonna
study
say-
or no for the
I was
study?
going to say insurance is a small price you pay to avoid a bigger loss in the future. And that's what this is. We're buying insurance. It's going to cost us, but it's going to be in the long run, it's going to be much better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm John Scholl, 107 Cambridge Court, Stonehenge. So I'm all for fiscal responsibility. I donate every year to the fire department. And I look forward to the sirens around Christmas time. I wave at Santa Claus. So I'm the only one in my cul-de-sac that comes out and waves. I'm like, hey, this is really cool, right? So what I just want, I'm proposed for the study. I think it's a good idea. It's money well spent, right? One thing is I'm hearing is I'd like to make a referendum. Can we make it a referendum for the larger community to vote? I'm hearing, we got Facebook or whatever, people that are coming. Do we know people are hearing us, right? So I don't know whose call is it to make it a referendum. You guys are voting for the budget, but can we put it to the general population to say, put it on a referendum saying, hey, this is what we're voting for, and let everybody buy into it. So that's all I'm asking. I'm for the proposal. I'm asking, hey, let's put it on as a referendum. Ms. McCreary had said, hey, we're built out already. Okay, we're built out. There's no more revenue coming in. She said that earlier. So the infrastructure here is going to be the same. So the firefighters, they're going to fight the same infrastructure. We're not growing, right? It's the same infrastructure. So I would say that I think, you know what, when you buy something for the first time, you're going to make it work. But it's the 3 to 5 to 10 years later that this thing keeps on coming. And then the last thing I just want to say is, where can we cut to pay for this? I think it's a good idea. Let's do the proposal. But have you considered where we're going to cut it to pay it? We all have budgets. So thank you.
Thank you.
Me again. I'll spell it WASHESKY, 100 Country Club Drive. First name Jay. Quick clarification. Are you voting on the decision to hire a consultant tonight?
Yeah, we're making the
I didn't
decision.
hear a cost.
I'm sorry.
I did not hear a cost come up.
It's on the agenda.
So it was on the agenda.
I downloaded the agenda. It just said decision.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was on the, so item number 16. The one consultant, Aspirant Consulting Group, their range was 16,500 to 23,450, not to exceed 25,000. I believe they were were they staffing only? I can't remember now without looking at it.
Phase one,
Yeah, phase
baseline
one.
assessment.
Yeah, because I did want to ask, because earlier you
So
said,
let me finish.
oh, okay.
Because there was 3 of them that we had that
Okay.
were presented to us. And then the second one was Center for Public Safety Management. That was 47,560. That was a full comprehensive. So that was staffing, facilities, everything. Municipal Resources Incorporated, they gave a 25,000 plus travel and expenses. That was a management letter that they would come up with. I believe, again, it was just staffing. And then they also gave a pricing of 45,000 plus travel and expenses for a full fire study.
Okay.
So those were the 3.
Yeah, and my apologies. I didn't get to go online. I had total knee replacement surgery 4 weeks ago, so I'm just getting back into the saddle. So, and I heard you say issue before. So, the issue is staffing or total overview of the whole fire department. Are we going to be able to? Are we meeting our needs now, but we won't in the future type of stuff?
Yeah, when I use the word issue, it's just saying that Chief shared with us the concern way back, again, started in October, but the first time that he spoke to us in June was around the fact that we have full-time complement during the day, but our nights and weekends are the issue.
Is staffing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that makes sense. I mean, I could see, I'm 33 years here, and I could see that the volunteer firemen levels are going
Volunteers
down.
have gone down.
Correct. Make it up. I got thrown back, like other people said, going from 5 to 24 or whatever the number is, 4 or 5-fold increase. Usually in the private sector, we transition and so now it's for one thing, you just show out, okay, we need to meet this here, there. Okay, but I'll read it online and get a better understanding. But tonight you're going to vote on a consulting. Okay, because so far back this evening, I'm not sure, and I never heard the numbers.
Okay.
So are we looking at just addressing the staffing issue with the consultants? Or
yeah. So our last
reimagine.
Our last meeting, and I encourage everyone to. I think every meeting we've had something around the topic. So our last meeting, ended with the focus being on, do we want to bring in a consultant to look at the staffing
The
staffing
staffing on it.
portion of the fire
So it
study.
sounds like that,
And I was the one that kind of said, I'm not ready to make a decision because we had a resident, I think I saw him in here. I don't know that I see him now.
Yeah. Homer.
Oh, there's my
Right there.
Homer. That pointed out that we should really look at maybe the full comprehensive. And I was honest and transparent and said I didn't even look at that $47,000 one just simply because of the price. So I wanted that opportunity to review it.
so is it possibly the one lower bid, like the 16 was staffing and the 23 was the total picture with staffing or something? Or
No, yeah, well, you're talking about another one of the other ones. I specifically, like I said, didn't want to make a decision because I wanted to have an opportunity to look at the full comprehensive.
But tonight, are you planning on
So, yeah,
voting on
so we're-
just the staffing issue? or-
No, we're just looking at staffing, but I mean, we'll talk
Staffing
about,
only, not
yeah, we're talking about.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. 'Cause it's been a while since it first came up tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Hello again, Homer Elizardo, Elizardo, 119 Embassy Drive. It is a complicated issue, and obviously you can tell by the amount of speaking. But personally, I want to thank Fire Chief Bill for taking time out of his schedule on Friday. Gave me a good tour of the facilities and got to meet some of the firefighters, the part-timers and things, saw the trucks and everything. Gives you a good appreciation of the magnitude. But what I kind of want to, I mentioned that, yeah, you should look at the consultancy. The consultants are more than just a report. They're going to look at everything. Chief has given us a very good option, but he's given you one option. Everything else has been, well, the 24/48 is not the greatest thing. It's 417 hours of extra overtime that you're paying. But if you go with with 3 shifts instead of the 4, you're saving the people, you're also saving benefits. And that's where the consultancy can really show you the actual financials of everything. What are you going to pay in benefits over a 5-year period? Assuming you're going to get a 4-year term of a new contract, what does that really look like? What are the assessments going to be? What is the tax bill going to be to the people over that time period? That's what the consultancy really gets for you. They will look at that option, that chief, they'll validate it. It may be the best option, but there may be other options and there are trade-offs. And that's what the consultants will look at is how can you manage the budget and get improvements to the township, make it easier on the fire department, but also move us in the path forward. The consultancy agreements, I think from CPSM, would look at firehouse locations. Yeah, we're not going to do that now, but you've got to start looking to the future. We say we're built out. We've seen the state of the mall. I don't think the mall is really going to suddenly boom again. Like all farmhouses, it's probably going to be sold off. And guess what? We're going to wind up with apartment buildings there or a firehouse. It's a centrally located area. Those are things that the consultants can look at. They can say, okay, the population grows by this amount, or you're going to rezone areas and then you start getting more population. And now what are you going to do? You have no plan. So that's the benefit of bringing in a consultant. And like I said, it may completely validate the chief's plan. And if so, then you have something to hang your hat on, that this is the plan. It's been vetted by an outside third party, or you can go with something else and say, we're going to work towards that plan long term, but you've got something to do it on versus we keep throwing all the numbers out, but there isn't a single sheet that really takes it all together and shows you what a 24/72 schedule is. You're working 2208 hours over the course of a year. If you go to a 24/48, these are the hours you're working. It's 417 hours of overtime based on a 28-day schedule. And those are the details that people need to get educated on. And that's what the consultancy brings to you. So while it may delay some things, you can do some other things to help the fire department. We talked about part-timers doing some other things there. they can look at those options. They don't just go into it totally blank. You can give them some options and say, we'd like you to look at this, this, and this, but also propose other things. So you direct the consultant towards what you want the outcome, what do you expect that deliverable? And you see it in the packets that they've presented. CPSM has a very detailed package, and granted, they are the most expensive, but like they say, you get what you pay. You pay what you get what you pay for. So my thoughts are, I know everybody talks about kicking the can down the road. It's a small delay in the overall aspect of it, and it's something that I think we always talk about projects and how doing all the upfront work is where you really do it, because once you get to the execution stage, that's where it becomes very expensive later to change something. So get it right up front and then move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I know it's late. Bill Belmonte, 103 Banbury Avenue. That's in Montgomery Oaks. 26,000 people, Chief Peoples and Chief Wegman. That's a lot of people. All of them can call 911. All of them expect you to be there fast, with purpose and exact. 26,000 people. Thank you. That's a lot. So I come to you tonight first as a community member. I'm a father of two small boys. They are 10 and 11. My wife and I decided to move to this community in 2007. We lived in the Orchards. I don't know if anybody here's from the Orchards. I haven't heard any of those addresses. In 2013, we moved to Montgomery Oaks right before our first child was born. And luckily, since then, two more siblings, not from this area. I didn't grow up here, neither did they, moved here. One to Canterbury and one to Woodbrook. So pretty excited that 3 families chose Montgomery Township as their place to live. Professionally, I come to you tonight as a director of nursing in a level 2 trauma center. So if Chief Wegman and I had the opportunity to sit down, we would be able to tell you about evidence-based practice. We would be able to tell you about safe staffing, leading practice. Do you know where evidence-based practice comes from and leading practice? Somebody does something differently. I think this township is fantastic and does things differently. So I'll leave you with this. First, a clarifying question. When is your preliminary budget due?
When is the preliminary?
11/10.
Thank you.
November 10.
Sorry.
November 10th.
All right. So I asked for speed to action. First with Chief Wegman's plan, and that we never hope these things happen. Please get the AED to my house faster. It might be my wife doing CPR on me. Please ensure that me or my loved one or a stranger driving through our township is extricated from that burning or mangled car faster. Please add to the number of brave arms that are going to respond to that choking child. And lastly, and I certainly understand the financial impact, please also think of the impact of the person that is delivering the message to that spouse, to that loved one, the child, maybe even the family member of a firefighter, that we did not have speed to action to put a plan in place to give them 5 or 7 faster minutes and a better chance at survival. Your preliminary budget is due November 10th. Speed to action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Vinay Sethi. I am the deputy fire chief. I live in Jefferson Court. I have been living in the township the past 40 of my 43 years. I grew up here. Been a member of the department since 2005. Joined the fire service in 1998, and been doing a volunteer ever since then. Back here, you have a whole bunch of you have a few other volunteer officers and also some of their career staffing. I'm here to say not to move forward with the study. The information that Chief Wegman has presented is the same information that we have gathered from our systems that we'll be presenting to the study company. All that information is going to be turned around and said the same exact way, maybe a little bit differently in a way, but it's going to say represent the same information that the chief has been presenting. Being a volunteer here brings me a lot of joy. However, I've seen the numbers decline over the years. And like people have said, I'm worried about what's planned for the future. Sorry. The amount of time that goes in to train volunteers has drastically increased. Ever since our discussions of this back from June, I've attended majority of the meetings. However, some I've not been able to. I've pretty much spoke at majority of the meetings as well. During that time, people have talked about what can we do better for the volunteers. I think during that time, we might have had 1 or 2 members join. No one else decided to join, put an application in, and be a volunteer. So anyone who doubts that, I would urge you to join. We have members who range from 16 years old to 75. Volunteers that are putting in 30, 40, 50 hours a week to volunteer on top of their normal job. So people are working 40 or 50 hours on their normal job, coming home with family responsibilities, and then putting in a lot more time at the volunteer organization. But no one else wants to help. So the people who are always questioning that, please put an application in and go right to our website. We always need firefighters. We always need fire police officers. So please join. But in terms of the study, everything that the chief has presented is going to be what the company is going to say. And there's no need to further delay the process of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. Soon to be good night if we keep going. Appreciate everything you guys do. You're all residents of the community, I assume. You've been elected. You pay taxes here. We all get that. I have 2
Get your
questions.
name and address.
Bruce Whiteman, sorry, Whiteman, 206 Eisenhower Lane, Montgomery Walk with Miss Audrey. Oh, Mrs. Audrey now. Anyway, I think we all know moving to full-time is the way to go. I lived in Illinois for 10 years. My son was the first full-time fireman hired in Geneva, Illinois, that went through all the schools. I moved out there when he was in 3rd grade. And it's been a great career for him, and he loves what he does. Firemen are the first responders. They get to the accidents first. They have the jaws of life. We don't need to all talk about all that stuff. I'm here to focus because we heard a lot of stuff, but it was a little off point here and there. Audrey told me that the money to pay for this, regardless of which of the 3 you guys select, it doesn't add to the budget. There's room in the budget for this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the question then is, what delay will hiring a consulting firm do? Will it make us miss starting to implement this plan in 2026? That's my question. And if you guys discuss this, I got here late. I worked till 8 o'clock. Sorry. I missed the opening, I think.
No, so I think, I welcome the ladies to correct me if I'm wrong. Our last meeting, we got to a point of just saying we're going to look at possibly just a staffing
I
study,
watched the
right?
last meeting.
And I believe they can still, any of the firms,
2 of the 3.
the 2 of the 3 can still get this in time for us to,
All right. Then,
from just a staffing
thank you
perspective.
for that. But that's what was not clear in my mind. My position then is we have elected you guys and voted you in office to do due diligence. If you feel that getting a consultant to address a lot of the concerns, especially this one gentleman here, I watched your presentation. Very well done. Then I'm okay with that. But the goal here is to move to full-time as soon as possible.
because my position is this: it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. It boils down to that. When my son called me and said I was the first one to a motorcycle accident and I gave the kid CPR, doesn't get any better than that, you know? So it's not a question, should we do this? It's a question, how fast, really? And do it for obviously is the least amount of money that we can. And that's what we've entrusted you guys to do. So thank you. I appreciate all the hard work that you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Jason Ropars, 105 Citadel Court, Montgomery Oaks. I took a couple notes, but I read the report. I wanted to just commend the fire chief. It's very detailed. It's very comprehensive. I saw that there's been a 19% increase in calls over the last 2 years with volunteers going down, which opened my eyes. I have a bunch of other notes, but I'm tired, so I'm not going to read them. The only thing I'll say is I don't know if anybody else in the room has ever needed the fire department. I have. The difference between 5 minutes and 10 minutes is replacing some siding or building a new house. So thank you to the fire department and the chief. I don't know if you remember. No need for details.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so now I guess we'll open it up to all of us. If there's any additional information that anyone would like to share, talk about.
I just want to share 2 comments that the chief made at the public safety meeting last week, which just stood out to me in a way that just has stayed with me. One, he doesn't see ever needing to increase staffing again in 20 years if we go to this plan that he has laid out so beautifully for us. The sad comment that I heard was right now we don't know who's coming to the fire. Depending on what time it is, what day it is, we don't know who's going to be there. Are they going to be there in time to assist our residents, our businesses? Speaking, my son does not live in this area, but he did have a fire several years ago. And to see the department work together to put out that fire was scary, was heartbreaking, and at the same time was like this miracle of the dogs got out, the people got out, everybody's good. So I applaud all of our fire department for the work that they do. I can't see me ever doing something like that, not even when I was 20 something. So thank you for what you do. It takes special people to do that.
I'll go next. I have a letter that a resident emailed to us, and she could not be at the meeting tonight. It's from a Stacy Clemmer. She says, "Dear Supervisors, I'm writing to encourage you to move forward with the plan set forth by our Fire Chief Bill Wegman. I feel that he has done his due diligence in researching this proposal. As a resident of the township, I know that I would feel safer if I knew there was a dedicated fire staff in case of emergency. Sadly, the age of being able to staff many organizations with volunteers has passed. I do not want the safety of my family, friends, and neighbors to be dependent on if there are enough volunteers available to assist on a call. I believe that the township should implement the proposal to create a fully staffed 24/7 fire department as soon as possible. In addition, as a friend to many first responders, I know that the 24 72-hour proposal is much better for their work-life balance and overall well-being. Thank you for your consideration of my opinions. Please reach out if you have any questions. Sincerely, Stacy Clemmer." I will just quickly say that I have lived here for 32 years. I have been on this board for 16 years. That is half of the time that I have lived here. I have seen Bill Wegman come up through the ranks as a volunteer. I have seen the literal shit show that our fire department used to be.
We put him in charge. He came, he knew what needed to be done. He was able to finesse it. He was able to staff. He was able to do everything that we asked of him, which is why I have the utmost trust in his plan and feel that we should move forward with it as soon as possible without the need for a study. He has done the work.
We'll just keep going down the road, I guess.
Yeah. One down.
So, I was sworn in to serve on this board in 2018, and I was surprised to find that the campaign issues that I thought would be, the things that we followed through on, and many of them we did actually, but one of the ones that I had absolutely no awareness of was the situation with the fire department. And I couldn't agree with Candace more.
Excuse my French.
that things were subpar and in need of improvement. And we brought Bill on board. And Chief Wegman, you have just done a tremendous job in turning things around and improving the culture. And I applaud you for that. And I know that you have put an incredible amount of thought and work into this plan. I'm supporting a study, not because I question you and the work that you've done, but I believe that we need a fresh set of eyes on this to explore and challenge your assumptions. I'm not an expert in fire safety, but I have enough questions about the proposal that was presented and the manner in which it was presented that I think we'd benefit from adding to your team in this capacity. So, and I think it's our fiduciary responsibility. This is a generational change. This is enormous in terms of the amount of staff that we're going to be onboarding in a single year. I want to make sure, to Homer's point, we've done our work up front and ensure that the whole thing goes smoothly. I'm not necessarily opposed to moving forward with full-time 24/7 service staffing. This is something that is not an if, but a when. We are seeing the same scenario played out across our community, across our state, across the country, because volunteerism is waning. So again, I just want to make sure we've got all of our ducks in a row and that we put forward the best plan possible, and bringing in, investing in a consultant to come in and review all of our metrics, the response times, challenge all of our assumptions. I think that is money, taxpayer dollars that will be well invested in the success of this plan moving forward. And so in terms of which one, I would say, obviously, I would go with either one of the two that can deliver it in time for our budget considerations. And I said previously that I would lean towards MRI, predominantly be based on the recommendation of Upper Marion, who also used that same firm when they made their transition.
Which one was it? I'm sorry.
MRI. Their ones, it's $25,000 plus travel and expenses. Oh, Carolyn, I did have a question though, because I had asked whether or not they would be able to come and deliver the results to the board, and you were going to circle back with them. They would be able to come and make that presentation. Thank you.
So our responsibilities here, none of us here are fire experts. We are certainly here to serve public safety, but we also respond to our voters and our taxpayers. I feel that this is definitely a need. I think that the presentation that has been proposed by Chief Wegman is sound, but I don't know what I don't know. I see that there are questions within our community. I don't see this as an issue of not trusting our chief, but I do believe in the measure twice, cut once principle. That if we are going to make this kind of an investment and ask that of our taxpayers, that we have to be certain that there was not an alternative out there that could not meet the same need or possibly improve upon it, this program. If we can find that, I would be happy because I want the best for our community and for our firefighters. And the only way we can do that is to ask questions. So as long as this does not delay our decision and implementation, I see no reason why we wouldn't try to improve the program and the proposal that's in place, and therefore go with a outside consultant to improve upon what we have here, make it better, make it safer, and answer those questions that we all have. Not everyone, but many of us have. So I would go with a consultant.
So I'm going to also start off with a letter that was sent to us, to all of us, the Board of Supervisors, by a resident, Joyce Wicker, that was not able to make it to the meeting tonight, but wanted to be here. Forgive me, I have my phone out because I didn't get to print it. She mentions, dear members of the board, I'm writing to request your support to improve the increased staff and cost of our fire department in response to ongoing challenges and evolving community needs. There is a steady decline in volunteer participation in many industries and a trend that is unfortunately a national issue. This decline, is my humble opinion, will continue. Additionally, the increased time required for volunteer personnel to arrive at fire scenes is impacting the ability to meet critical response times needed, which impacts many. To maintain the safety and well-being of the community residents, this increase should be done at once and not phased in. The cost and time to phase in staff will not only be inefficient, but the training costs will be higher and redundant. Also, the topic regarding obtaining an outside consulting review study at a cost of $50,000. She picked the highest one. I believe this represents an unnecessary burden on township taxpayers. In my opinion, and often in practice, such studies tend to serve primarily to reinforce or justify the chief's existing analysis. While it's possible the study may actually recommend more personnel be added. The chief resides within the township and has a deep understanding of its needs. His analysis should be afforded the same level of trust and confidence as the position he holds. Realistically, this study is likely to end up unused, sitting on a shelf and collecting dust, and a true waste of taxpayer dollars. This $50K could better be utilized in other ways. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend this evening's meetings and welcome the opportunity to discuss further if need be. So I'm going to kind of start off where I started off last week or 2 weeks ago and say, and I said it this evening also, as much as we want, all of us want to make everyone in this township happy, that would be my ultimate goal, to do that. The reality of it is, though, we're not going to. With every decision that we are faced to make, we're just not going to make everyone happy. But our goal should be to always take in all of the information presented, assess what's presented, socialize it with the community, receive feedback, and then just make the best decision possible with what we have before us. Prayerfully, our decision will always be fiscally responsible, thoughtful, and be in the best interest of the community. Please remember, the 5 of us live here. We pay taxes here. We don't get a break on the taxes. I had a couple of neighbors that thought we get breaks on taxes because we serve. We don't get a break on the taxes. So, we pay them like everyone else. So a tax increase is not anything we're looking forward to, possibly looking at now, next year, 10 years from now, whenever. It's not anything any of us wants. Chief also lives here in the township. He also pays taxes. He doesn't get a break. And I do think that, he has, I'm going to safely assume he completely understands and appreciates what this potential expansion means for the community from a financial perspective. I do know, because when I tell you, I have spent so much time trying to just randomly reach out to people and ask and get their feedback. I reached out to an old supervisor from 10 years ago who said this was a problem 10 years ago, but it now has just magnified into something or blossomed into something more. And, it's now come to a situation where it has to be addressed. I will say the board, we all have said, it's not a situation or it's not a question of doing it or not. We know we have to do something. It's just a matter of, do we do it all in one swoop? Do we do it, over the course of a couple of years or 2 or 3 years or 5 years, whatever that number is. But I don't think anyone, I'm confident, I'm not gonna say I don't think, I know none of us think that nothing should be done. Nope. Problem's been presented, we're not doing anything. That's not the answer. So the question becomes, who best should look at the township and what we need? In my opinion, it's the folks that live and breathe everything that happens here, that sits in that first responder seat every day. And they have an understanding of the staffing perspective that, in my opinion, a consultant will never be able to really, truly understand. Having, again, utilized consultants over the course of my career, I'm retired now, but over the course of my career in banking, on occasion, they do serve a purpose. And I'm going to give a real life example of, or a conversation that came up where I think a purpose will be served. To the gentleman that, which is why I paused 2 weeks ago, because I wanted to look at the big picture one. And it was really good information because not only, and I talked to another consultant, I had 3 different consultants that I spoke to, unrelated to fire, but one just 2 days ago. And she said, did any of the packages share with you that they have an understanding of fire? And I said, well, you know what? The big package did. Their bios were, if you look at all of their bios, some of them were firemen, or used to be, or retired. And she said, okay, because that's what you want to look at if you decide to go with a consultant. She, by the way, lives in the community. She does not think we should move forward with a staffing consulting model. I will say this, when I look at and this is not anything to do now, because we're not looking at our buildings now or looking at our structures now. When that time comes that we have to look at our firehouses, I do think we need to bring in a consultant. That is something new. That will be something new for Chief, I would think, to actually look at our structures. Should we have 2? Should we have 1? Should we, expand the 2? I don't know. That's going to show us everything possibly we need to look at. But from a staffing perspective, I feel that Chief has done the work. When he first mentioned this to us in again, October and then June, the questions were an overload in my head. I personally have spent a lot of time with him, a lot of time with community, and talked to Upper Marion because they did do this. And one of the things that stood out for me, because they did have a firm, they were full volunteer. We are currently already have some full-time folks. So we're expanding on what we already have. They were full volunteer, and then they went into career. That makes sense to bring in a consultant. It's new for you. You don't know what you don't know yet. So that was an eye opener for me, speaking with the folks up, a couple of folks up that way. So I'm of the mindset that we do not need to do a staffing model. So do we take a motion?
So I'll make a motion to not hire a firm to conduct a fire staffing study.
I'll second that.
Any public comment? Any additional public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion to
Motion.
not hire a firm passes.
Carries.